to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We're finally getting back into the groove of doing another retrospect. It's been so long, I feel like, since we did our last one. I don't even remember what our last one was.
Our last one, I believe, was... it wasn't Magnificent Seven. That'd be something other than that. I know Magnificent Seven kind of took us out of it for a while, but I think... Was it Magnificent Seven by chance?
I don't know. That could have been it. I know that was our last one. We did a really big series, but who knows? Can't remember, actually, to tell you the truth now. But there probably was something between that, because that was almost like a year ago. I don't think it's been that long.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's archived. We'll look it up later.
Somebody can figure that out. Not us, but somebody else.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd go back with a movie that's kind of like a classic to us. One of those, 90s movies that almost... You didn't really see when it came out. I felt this was like a movie you kind of saw as time went on, because I didn't see it like in the first handful of years it was out. It was definitely a much later down the road movie. And to me, what makes this a big classic is I really like these two guys when they do live action. And they've only done it about 3 times, I guess a fourth one if you count a puppet movie. But we're talking about Trey Parker Matt Stone's Orgazmo.
Welcome to Hollywood.
In a city of sin.
What would you say if someone offered you peace and happiness through all of eternity?
He was a missionary.
Have a nice day.
On a mission.
Hi, my name's Joseph Young. We're with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Boss? Some guys from Jesus?
Are you making a movie here?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of movie is it?
It's an action...
Need a hand?
Adventure...
That's handiwork.
Porno.
You make me so horny.
Like as in pornographic?
And I want you to take over as the leading man in my film.
Come on, boys. Grease them up.
And action!
Give it to me, you big stud.
Check that out, man.
Keep your mouth shut!
Sorry, dude. Got a little excited. I can't. See, I have a fiance.
$20,000.
Is it enough so that we can get married?
It's $20,000. I have to think about this.
Yeah. You start at 10 o'clock. Have you met our new Orgazmo?
Your Orgazmo. I'm your sidekick.
My sidekick?
I help you out with my specially designed sex toys.
Oh.
Action!
Not afraid of Orgazmo.
Did someone say my name?
Come on, boys. Let's get it on.
Yes, sir. This is supposed to be erotic. Do you want your money or not?
I have had enough of your poop. Get out of here. You don't own me.
You want to bet I don't, punk?
Find yourself another Orgazmo.
Joe, help me.
Lisa, where?
Will you shut up?
Orbison took my cupcake.
You and I need to do something. It's the Orgasmorator. I've made it work.
Now you're putting me on.
You can use the Orgasmorator as a weapon.
Where's my fiance, butt lord?
Who the hell are you?
I'm Orgazmo.
Curses!
Here to save Hollywood.
Man, these European videos are kinky.
That's a bad dog.
And then the world.
Farewell, evildoers.
Orgazmo.
I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I think you've got a really nice ass.
Battling evil has never felt so good. Orgazmo.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Get some.
Now, it's funny you mentioned the whole thing about Trey Parker, Matt Stone, because Matt Stone is in this movie, but Trey Parker, it's almost more his project, more thing else. And you're like, Matt,
Matt Stone's, he's a producer on it.
He's a producer on it?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, yeah, I know it's got, like, it says written, directed by Trey Parker, but, like, I just kind of feel like, well,
they're
Matt
best
Stone's
friends.
there.
They work together all the time.
The way that I kind of look at it is that Trey Parker's the guy who creates everything and kind of has the idea of how everything should go. And Matt's just that cool buddy who throws in comments and says, hey, maybe we should try this. And here's a funny line here. And it's almost like the moral support guy. That's how I always kind of viewed it. Like, Trey Parker's the serious guy. He's the guy who's in the music. He's the guy who's into doing all that stuff. And then Matt Stone's like there to make it fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. It is kind of interesting because the thing about this movie that I think made it so hard to see, because this movie people told you about, but it's so hard to see because it's NC-17, and you watch that, there's like barely any nudity in this movie, no real violence really, so it's just one of those things. Before I was watching this movie, I was just watching a bunch of interviews with Matt Stone and Trey Parker over the years, and they were talking about like how the ratings board would not help them out with like reducing it down to an R He says like, well, because it was a smaller movie. Bigger movies, they'll get back to him and say, yeah, well, this has there's a little bit too much nudity right here. This part's a little too violent, so trim that back. Like, okay, where this one they don't have that obligation or that sense of priority on smaller films. So they just tell them to go fuck themselves, basically.
Well, yeah. And what's the weird thing too is because you watch this movie, and that's how I thought too. Is as a kid, it was like, oh, dude, it's NC-17. It's going to be extreme. That's what they always tell you. Oops, you got a phone call.
Hey, dude, I'll talk to you a little later. I can't talk right now. That's it. Bye. One time I keep my phone on so I could check my notes. And sure enough, this motherfucker's going on.
Somebody calls you.
I'm putting this fucker on airplane mode.
But as a kid, though, it's like one of those ones, like, you think it's like, oh, dude, it's NC-17. It's going to be so extreme. And you watch this movie, and I feel like this movie, even like by today, you would almost say it's like a hard PG-13 sort of. Like there's a couple fucks. There's enough stuff that makes it rated R, but I look at it and go, there's nothing that makes it NC-17. That is literally just somebody got lazy, probably looked at it and said, oh, it's about pornographic stuff, probably has a bunch of nudity in and everything like that, about the business, man, make it NC-17. Like it just reminded me like somebody just shot them off real quick and that's why it was. Like it should have had a second look or a third look. That's
how I feel with the Motion Picture Association of America, because even going back to something else we did a retrospect on, Cowboy Bebop, that like the movie is rated R. And if you look at what's rated R for, it just says for some violent images. It doesn't add in sexuality. It doesn't add in language. I'm not even sure if they watched the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I felt like it was somebody threw it on and said, oh, I got a half an hour to watch this 2-hour movie. Fuck it. Click, click. Okay, looks like some guns firing. Click, 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 click. Space battle. Click, 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 click. And credits and done. like just went through it. Barely even saw it. It's like it's animated, so it doesn't look like it's for kids. Radar.
And I feel like that's even like a PG-13, but still, it just was for some violent images, like some violent. Okay, whatever.
Well, that's one of those movies like there's literally nothing in that movie I think that makes it rated R.
There's a part where a cop's head gets blown off.
But like in animation, it sounds weird. It almost like that's a little bit lesser. If that was in a live action movie, for some reason it'd be more. But when it's in animation, it's kind of like violence is a little bit more accepted.
And you have the close up when like Shock gets shot in the chest, when Spike gets shot in the chest to like point blank range, and like blood just boom, like in slow motion shoots out.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a little bit more than the TV show, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one I feel like can go either way, but the whole point of what I was trying to make with that was that they even have everything in that movie listed off, so I don't even think that they always watch all the movies they fucking put out there.
Well, that's more like nowadays where they list everything off. That's what makes me like laugh, because like there's so many categories. Because back in the day, it's like you almost had 5 categories. Like what was it? The movie either had violence, adult themes, nudity, language, and maybe like one other thing I can't remember, but like that's all it was. It was just the basics, And nowadays it's like I just love looking at trailers, and then you just see the words that they choose, and I just bust up laughing. It's gone beyond. It's it'll be everything. It's like there's a scene of smoking, and there's a scene of a fart, and you're like, why is that a big deal? Like there's a scene of a man's pubic hair. Okay, just put down nudity. I get it.
There's almost this Star Wars like prologue of like all the things. Like,
some movies, it's like they got like 15 things in that list, but like you could only see it in the movie theater. If you watched it at home, you would never be able to read it. It'd be so small, so many different words.
Mm-hmm. I noticed the big difference is like if it says nudity, like okay, nudity. If it says graphic nudity, probably means you're seeing some dick.
Yeah, that's how they kind of do it. Maybe a rape scene.
Yeah.
Maybe some dick and a rape scene. You never know.
A little bit of everything.
But it's weird because, like, Orgazmo, though, is one of those movies that, even though it's okay, yeah, you look at it and you just feel like, and that's probably what it was, because it looks like one of those kind of movies that's be like, oh, there's going to be, like, tits everywhere in this film. It's like, but I like what they do instead. Is they do it every single time there's supposed to be, like, a nudity scene. They just have, like, okay, here comes the sex scene, and then this guy's ass just stands in front of the camera.
Just to ruin it, yeah.
So it's like, I feel like that right there just tones it down to like PG almost. But it's just, it must have been one of those ones like you looked at the movie poster and then they're like, nope, that's fucking NC-17.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think just the concept alone makes it rated R. But I think it's just a bunch of lazy. They're a bunch of lazy old assholes that just don't want to fucking. The more I've never heard anything about the ratings board that made them seem likable or easy to work with. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to just a bunch of fucking assholes. But they actually do things on the TV show South Park. They'll actually intentionally make things sound way worse in the script and push for things they know are not going to get in there, so they can settle for the things they originally wanted to get in there.
Yeah, it's like, Trey Parker Matt Stone learned pretty quickly about like how to deal with those guys and how to like, in a sense, get them off your back. Because you make something seem like way worse. So by contrast, the thing that you really want to do is not so bad.
Because Cannibal the musical, that one is so small, and that's a Tromaville movie. So I feel like that one's like, who really cares? This one though, like we want to get it to theaters. It's called Orgazmo. We're the guys that made South Park. Like, that foul-mouthed kid show? Like, it's not a kid
South Park
show.
wasn't even out by the time this movie was being made. Like, literally,
didn't this movie come out in 98?
It came out in 98, but it was made in 97. So, like, South Park wasn't really even, like, a thing yet. I mean, it was sort of, like, there at the same time. But I know they were working on this movie before South Park even, too.
I can see that. I can see them trying to get this thing off the ground, because this was a pitch they had for a while. Along with, and the South Park just picked up like they didn't expect it to, because they made that Spirit of Christmas VHS that kind of just spread around from person to person to person, and then like, that weird little cartoon we did, that's getting picked up. People love it. And they want us to make a show out of that, and that was how that got rolling. But I know this was something that was in the works for a while. They were trying to get off the ground. I remember hearing in earlier interviews, by the time they got to the sidekick wearing a dildo on his head, they said there was a couple times someone said, "Just get the fuck out of my office."
Well, yeah, because I will say it does sound like a tough sell. I mean, like, who's going to throw down money for it? I mean, the movie's only $1 million movie, which in movie standards that's like super cheap, even for like the '90s. So like you have that kind of sense, and yeah, like I think here's the thing: the concept wise sounds more extreme than it really is, because the movie itself really is. It's like one step up from like an Adam Sandler movie. I don't mean that like in a bad way, but like, just take an Adam Sandler joke and maybe just crank it up just enough, and that's almost kind of like where they're at. It's not like they're doing anything like extremely hardcore, because a lot of the humor in this movie too, I like. It's like that light, like it's just like almost these like little jokes just strung in that are like just make you laugh real hard, but they're not like anything extreme. It's not raunchy. It's not. And I think from the look, it looks like it's raunchy. You know what I mean?
There's the part where they go into where the gangsters go in and start beating down the Asian dude, and the thing is, they're just like, you just see him wailing on him with a metal baseball bat, and then it cuts back to him. He has a small cut under his eye. He's like, no.
I like that because that's the same guy from Cannibal,
that Indian guy
who plays the Native American guy.
We're Native Americans. Keeps looking at the camera.
Yeah, that guy. But there's also a line too. It's like when those gangsters first come into what's his name? It's I want to say DJ Fresh, but that's not what it is. It's
I think it's G Fresh.
G Fresh. Yeah, it's G Fresh. They come in there, and then like you got what's his name? But the short guy that's in like the early Matt Stone, Trey Parker movies, and he goes up to say something. And one of the gangsters he's like, "You sit down, Tiny Tim." But it's just like little lines like that I think that's like. I like all that little humor, because when I was rewatching, I was like, I knew the movie was funny, but I forgot actually kind of like how funny it was. Because out of, I guess you could say, the 4 sort of live action Trey Parker Matt Stone films, this was probably my least favorite one of them all. Not saying that it's bad, but like I like Baseketball and probably Team America and even Cannibal more. But I was like, man, I kind of forgot. There's just all these great little jokes just strung throughout the thing.
I think this is one of those things, like, this is by no means shitting on the movie, because it is a funny movie. It's probably, of all the things they've done, it's probably one of my more least favorite ones. But I mean, it's there. You can see it starting off. You can kind of see a lot of early South Park style jokes and that sense of writing kind of come in through this movie. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't surprise me. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you just keep going.
Wouldn't surprise me in the least bit. I mean, I didn't look it up, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if they were like, oh god, that movie. Because if you listen to them on like some of the audio commentaries, a lot of ideas from the show, like, oh, we did that 3 years ago. Yeah, chances are I probably don't like it now. I have trouble going back to watching this season or that season. People bring it up like, yeah, it was a different time. I was kind of into different things. So I can see them being kind of like very meh about the movie, even though I still like it.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing about Trey Parker Matt Stone. They do have like a weird kind of personality sense when it comes down to their stuff. Yeah, they really don't like their old stuff. They're almost like most people, like they want whatever's new and fresh that they have, and kind of, not saying there's probably not certain episodes, but I remember like on the season 2, like on the audio commentary, yeah, they're like, yeah, you should probably just take this season, just throw it away. Just, if you can get your money back, get your money back. But if you can't, well, just call it a loss. It's just like, and it's weird because like I actually like season 2. I mean, like, yeah, it's got more episodes than any other South Park season, so you can kind of see where they're like stretching it maybe a bit. But there's some of the best episodes in season 2, in my opinion. But
it was season 1 and season 2, then they had the movie, then they came back for season 3, right?
Yeah. Now here's an episode from season 2 that I consider one of the best South Park episodes ever, and they're characters that never ever came back into it. But it's the one where they do the road trip to go visit like Cartman's like aunt or something that, and you get like the extended Cartman family, and they literally like it's like out in like fucking Ohio or
I think it's Nebraska. I think because they pass by.
Yeah, it's Nebraska.
They pass by a road sign. You're now entering the like. Welcome to Nebraska. Like another one comes by later. Sorry.
Yeah. But like that episode, I think is one of the funniest episodes, and that's the one where like somehow, some way, it's like Charles Manson gets out of prison and he's like related, or I can't remember if it's like something or another, and he comes into like the play of like coming to the Christmas dinner and everything like that, and it ends with like, "It's a joyous Christmas, right, Charles Manson?" And he's like, "Yes, the best Christmas I could ever have."
That's right. It was the Christmas episode.
Like, dude,
I forgot.
And then they got like the retarded like nephew. Cartman keeps hitting him over the fucking head with like a stick, and then he starts going like really retarded. He's like, damn! His eyes get all cockeyed.
Yeah. That was one like I'm like some of the jokes they do in South Park. They'll do like some things. I'm like, how'd they get away with that? But there are other things where it's like, I'm not gonna say that there's no way you can get away with. Like there seems to be certain things in South Park that you could get away with then, but can't get away with now, but can get away with now, but not then. Like, for instance, when they were doing the whole episode about George Zimmerman and God, who was the name of the kid, the poor kid that got shot? And it was drawing a blank on his name. I feel like an asshole. But no, when they're doing that whole thing about like stand your ground and all that, the whole George Zimmerman thing, and they had Cartman pull a gun on Token and shoot him. I was like, what the fuck? Like, there's no way you would get away with that back then. But then now they're having more jokes about policing language and, like, making less and less, like, mentally challenged jokes, that kind of stuff.
Well, because in the old episodes, that's the thing you kind of forget is actually how much language is in, like, the first handful of seasons. Because the language is really toned down, like, a lot. Like, they only swear, like, every once in a while in the new ones. But in the old ones, like, every handful of lines, there's, like, swear words. And, like, that was, like, kind of the thing. Mm-hmm. Because that at the time was kind of... But I don't know, it's like movies in a sense. That's why I always look at... There's, like, 70s movies that, like, they do things in there that's like, oh, dude, you could never do that nowadays. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, science is, like... There's certain time periods I feel that are almost, like, more hardcore than others. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like how jokes are. It's weird how like certain jokes are appropriate at one time, and then certain jokes can get away at another, and same with violence and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like Orgazmo kind of got stuck in just a weird pocket of time. That, like if that would have came out in 2005, probably would have had no problem.
Yeah,
would have sailed. But I think it was just like because it was still before South Park really had taken off. I think because that's the thing is that this movie would have made it like when South Park was really popular, then. Yeah, it would have been an instant sell. But since it was before South Park, technically, and that's why I think Paramount, has it, or Universal. So somebody owns it now, but they knew that it was this is gonna be the perfect investment. 1 year after South Park comes out, you're like, gotta get this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, people are gonna want to watch this movie. Even if the guy's like, no matter how dumb this movie is, you can still always resell it.
Well, this movie also has just like it's interesting because. I think it's intentional just to kind of throw people off because they'll have a lot of jokes in the movie where, clearly they're saying fuck and shit every once in a while and all these sex jokes. But they'll like say something and not just the whole Mormonism thing because he's like, oh gosh darn it, not like that. But other characters will say some like very childish things like, sir, we have to amputate your pee-pee. Like very like things like that just kind of throw you off. And I think they're just kind of more just poking fun at the narrative to an extent.
Yeah, well, because like the story of this, for if anybody has not seen it, which that could be very high, because it's one of those movies that I don't expect anybody just to normally see unless you're hardcore into South Park. But it's pretty much a Mormon guy's down in Los Angeles, doing his thing, going door to door with his buddy, trying to, share the word of Jesus with everybody. And I like it because it shows him going door to door at first, and they just stop by certain places. And, you get like the guy who's like, hey, what the fuck you trying to sell me? And then it gets later on, there's like this old lady who's like, so you're talking about the word of Jesus then? He's like, yeah, well, yes, man, that's what we're talking about. She's like, well, then you get the fuck right out of here right now. You take your fucking shit and shove that Jesus book up your ass.
That's because she started off so nice. Well, hi, young man. How are you doing today? What a lovely day. And she's like, get out of here, you pig fuckers.
And then as it goes on, pretty much what happens is they knock on the door of a porno set, and then next thing you know, I guess what's going on is the guy that they have playing Orgazmo originally can't do any of like the fighting scenes. And when fucking Trey Parker knocks on the door, he's like, send the security guard out there. He's like, oh, there's a bunch of Mormon guys out there. He's like, well, cut their fucking balls off. So he goes outside. He's like, sorry, gotta cut your balls off.
Just
like calm about it.
I could almost the whole scene, just the way they were talking. I could almost imagine that whole thing, that scene, like played out like in South Park style animation.
Oh yeah, totally. You can totally see that. And then, in this part, then they figure out that, like, oh, fuck, Trey Parker, he actually knows all this martial arts self-defense. He'll be perfect for the movie.
Well, it's also
and they get him in.
Oh, go ahead, man. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and just to get him into the movie is they give him enough money. And he's like, well, I could provide her with that perfect wedding in Salt Lake City.
Well, the thing that's funny about that whole fight scene right there is they're intentionally trying to make it look kind of like a 70s kung fu movie with just the camera work, and he had kind of like delayed reactions when he was turning around and looking at people, or that thing where it zoomed in on his face and he very over the top like, whoa!
And then it zooms back out. There's all these guys around him.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, because think about Trey Parker, that's like one of his other real favorite things. I mean, when he went to go to college, he went there to study, like his major was Japanese.
Really? Well, I guess
Yeah,
it explains
like,
why he married a Japanese woman. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it all makes sense because that's why there's always Japanese references all the time. That's why there's always they speak a lot of times in our language is always in Japanese. Mm-hmm. So it all comes around. You're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But I think it's kind of a weird one. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to school in Colorado, major in Japanese.
Well, Sacha Baron Cohen originally went to school for politics and all that, and then he just did acting for fun and drama stuff for fun, and then he got an opportunity to do the Ali G show. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do that.
Well, that same thing I think happened to Trey Parker or Matt Stone. It's just like, well, Matt Stone I think went there for mathematics, but
he looks like a guy who'd be in mathematics.
Class.
He just looks like it.
Yeah, I know exactly. But I will say, Matt Stone's character in it, it's a small role. He just plays this lighting guy, but he's got some of the best fucking jokes in the whole thing. They're just real simple. Well, also... just even the point where it's they're watching the sex scene and then he's holding the lights up. He's like, yes, fuck it. They're like, dude, we got stop.
There's also I mean, now I think these kind of jokes are a little bit more common, but back then I think it was a little bit more weird and random. Wait, what the fuck was that? He randomly walks up to Trey Parker because you can see Trey Parker. He's having trouble getting into the scene because he's a Mormon. He's having a real conflicting issue. He's like, well, as long as I don't have to actually fuck anybody and I'm just kind of fighting for the action scenes, that's cool. When they say, well, you're not going to fuck them, but you still got to kiss them, you still got to grab their ass and whatnot. So he's like, well, so he's having this whole moral struggle with it by then. And when he comes out of the scene, his first shot, he's just beaten down, oh man, I don't know, how am I going to do this? All of a sudden, Matt Stone walks by. He's like, hey, man, great job out there. Oh, yeah, thanks. He says, hey, have you ever seen Clash of the Titans? The Greek mythology movie. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I don't want to sound gay or nothing, but unicorns kick ass, and just walks away.
I don't want to sound like a fag or nothing, but unicorns fucking kick ass.
They'll say, there's a part where they're at, another sex party. There's, a naked mariachi band playing. He says, I don't want to sound queer or nothing, but these guys remind me of Depeche Mode. I love Depeche Mode, bro.
Doesn't make me a fag or nothing, does it?
He says, I don't want to sound gay or nothing, but I totally want to make out with you later. He, puckers up his lips, staring at him.
Oh, yeah, that's, there's just all these, things that, nowadays, because I think the downfall of now, almost modern humor, is everybody's trying to one-up each other in the raunchy department, which... I don't know. That's why I feel like I'll watch some movies and it's almost you can spot from a mile away like what they're trying to do, and you go, well, you don't feel legitimate. You just feel like you're trying to one up the next guy, and it doesn't feel like is this who you are yourself? I don't think so. I think you're writing these jokes and then taking them higher and higher until it gets to this place where it's just so far gone, just to almost like offend somebody or something like that. And it doesn't feel real. Where like this humor here, it's just like it's so like light and simple, but it feels totally real. Like I don't feel like there's any lying to me going on.
Whether they worked on it or not, or whether they had called all the shots or not, if this movie got made today, I got a feeling they would put. I'm surprised. So it was the first time I watched the movie, probably like in like 10 years or so. There's the part where he had the orgasm gun. So basically, what he does is he's playing a superhero in a porno. He shoots people with an orgasm gun. They all just orgasm and fall over. His sidekick, who's Chota Boy, he's a real life scientist, and he actually made an actual orgasm gun. And they just go around testing on people, and then when you find out that the director of this movie is actually involved with the mob and this and that, things start to get a little bit more. I'm not going to say they get more serious, but the story.
And they steal G Fresh's sushi.
Yeah,
restaurant.
They do that shit. Yeah, and so he starts actually kind of becoming like a real life Orgazmo, shooting people with this orgasm gun, and also using his kung fu at the same time. If this movie came out today and they shot people with the orgasm gun, there would be so many coming jokes. It would be one of those things like this, like because I was surprised, it would just be somebody, they stop and like, oh, okay,
Well, I love the one because they're like, let's go test this gun out, and they go kind of around. You know, they shoot like an old lady with it, so of course you got that kind of scene. They shoot just some random people, like some rabbis, but then they see Matt Stone's character. He's just like having this conversation, and then they shoot him. He's like, oh, and then he gets back up.
As if nothing happened.
And that's what I mean. It's like the humor in it. It's light humor. It's nothing like reaching that far, but I think that's what makes it just. I was just fucking laughing the whole way through. Like, I almost felt like I laughed even more than like the last time I've seen it. Because this movie I've probably only seen it like 5 times in my entire life. And as I say with me, I probably haven't seen it in a handful of plus years. Probably last time I watched it, probably did like a double feature of this and Cannibal. But yeah, it's just like that humor in it. But yeah, I could see nowadays like somebody would want to keep ramping it up to try to compete with other movies. And it's, you know what I mean? Sometimes there's something to be said about having dialed back humor. You know, I mean, in 97, this is definitely like, still pretty cutting edge, but I still feel like it still keeps with just like simpleness. Or even like, here's another example. The movie starts off and it's got like actually like an intro. It reminds me very similar to like Chasing Amy. And I don't know if that was like what it was sort of going for, because it's like they came out like the same time. And it's just got kind of like, Orgazmo, and it's just like him in different poses of like Superman and Spider-Man and all that stuff. But it's got one of the best fucking songs where it's like, now you're a man, man. And that's a song that like whenever I'm eating something that like you got to try to like fucking man down, and it doesn't really taste that good. That's the song I sing in my head. So you're fucking like chugging this thing down. You're like, now you're a man, man.
What I like about that song, though,
what makes a man is it the woman by his side. So probably them titties. Just keep eating like,
What I like about the song, though, is once again, this kind of came out at a time before like that weird, random kind of internet humor. So the song, when you first hear it, it just sounds like, okay, they're just doing like a cheesy 80s rock song. But then when he starts saying, now you're a man, you laugh. He keeps on going, man. You realize he doesn't have any other lyrics, and he's all offbeat, like, man.
Well, that's, I mean, like,
it just goes off the rails.
Could have, like,
the song just keeps going.
We could almost have like the Trey Parker like Man album, because he's got so many songs. There's also that one like in the South Park one where when all the guys are going to the plays. There's like that man time, man time.
He just likes doing the man. He just likes doing that shit. I noticed.
Well, I think it too is like probably just came from just listening to like a bunch of like grunge rock albums, and goes like they all kind of like have this manly feel to them, and they all kind of are like shouting and everything like that. But yeah, it's just like, what's weird too is that song, I don't know why, when I played it in my head, like, you go, now you're a man, man. And it almost just goes like, instantly you could cut in to like Eye of the Tiger by going, man. man, 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 man. I don't know why. Like when I sing that song in my head, I almost want that to be like the next
that
part of
remix
it.
has to be the thing. Well, I think that. I mean, don't get me wrong. This song is on my workout playlist. So,
dude, it just makes as I said, like whenever if you just want to take it to the next level, you
I
just throw
think
that on.
I think the more like what's the best way to put this? The more toned down version of the song is probably the Batman song from the Lego Batman movie.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's kind of the same thing. It's almost just kind of like just some dude. That song almost sounds like it could have been written by Trey Parker. Just like, look how manly, look how cool he is.
It's like,
who does all this shit, does all that shit.
Well, the interesting thing too is that Orgazmo, they actually wanted it to be a musical, just like Cannibal, but for some reason, like when they're getting their money for it, they're like, no, don't make it a musical.
I can see that. I can honestly. I think this would work better as a musical.
I can see that being like a tough sell. Like, yeah, it's just like, we want to do a musical about pornographic movies, Mormons, and it's like, wow, pick a couple categories. No,
well, I think that
you see this list I gave you. It said select a few, not everything.
There's not an above all category or all above.
Yeah,
I was gonna say this movie right here. I think it actually worked better as a musical because if you listen to the show long enough, you hear. I think this movie might actually work better as a musical, possibly, because I think that you have plenty more opportunities to get jokes in there. You got plenty of stuff. It's like the Man song, something like that.
Well, that's if you make the music like that, and you make it like the song that's in like Baseketball, when he's like driving, and it's like pretty much
one of the best
parts.
That had to be like Matt Stone and Trey Parker on that part because that whole
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Trey
because
Parker
that whole
it.
thing though. The thing about Baseketball, what's interesting is they were just coming in there as the actors and they were freeballing. And then like the director's like, you know what? They're doing funnier. Let's just go with it. And just
well, that was the cool thing is because I will say, even though like that director's not really one of my all-time favorites, because it's like I like that movie a lot, but it's like the reason I think I like it so much is Matt Parker and Trey Stone. But in the special features, like, really like, we just let them kind of do whatever they want. I mean, I'll say this, he's like, the core story is mine, but a lot of the jokes are theirs. And you can pretty much tell, like, what's a Matt Stone, Trey Parker joke, and then what's, like, that guy's joke. Because he has all pretty much the super slapsticky jokes. That's, like, totally him. And then whenever there's something actually pretty darn funny, it's like, okay.
I could see either one of them being, either one of those guys having the joke. There's the part, like, you can come over and clean the carpet, if you know what I mean. And then she's literally, like, cleaning the carpet. Like, oh, man.
Yeah. There's all those kind of jokes in there that are just like that kind, and you're like, okay, I can tell that's probably from the original script or so on, but no, overall that's a great movie too. And see, what I like about that movie is that movie's in like the same kind of feel though still as Orgazmo. That's why for the longest time I've just been waiting for Trey Parker Matt Stone. Like if they said like we're gonna take a couple years off from doing South Park to do a movie, I'd be like, yes, as long as they're starring in it and it's live action, that is worth it to me. Like sacrifice a couple like years of South Park if that's the case. Like do a full movie. It's like I miss those days because I just think they were perfect just for straight up comedy.
They did an interview recently where they said they're going to try to avoid doing so much Trump stuff in the new season, which I think is smart because people are just so worn out about getting a news flash about something every day. I mean, you got to touch on it a little bit here and there, but doing too much of it's just going to get old quick.
Yeah, with that, it was on that Nerdist interview of Trey Parker. When Trey Parker said that because
he did a Nerdist interview.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
Oh, okay, good. I want to listen to that now.
Yeah, check that one out. It's really good. But it's like, because that's the thing is like the South Park that I like the ones where it's just about the kids doing regular things. Like I bring up episodes like perfect examples like the ones where they get the weapons. You know what I mean? Like that episode to me is like that can last you could play that episode in 50 years and it'll still be relevant. Like not that the episodes that are about like a hot topic aren't funny. The thing is this is why I kind of look at those. One. In about 10 years, nobody might not have any idea what the fuck they're talking about. Not saying they can't still laugh, but it might be kind of like, what the fuck is this? Two, I always call that's kind of like easy comedy. That's literally like you flip the TV on, you go, okay, and you just write down jokes. Like I like comedy that's more about like life and things that like it's thought out comedy and so on. So the second Trey Parker said that, I'm like, oh, awesome. Because as I said, yeah, the last 3 seasons have been funny, but it was kind of one of those ones. It's like, okay, good. I'm glad, don't have to be so political. And the nice thing too, he said they're gonna stop doing like the continual like arc shows. They're going to go back to like singular episodes. I'm like, perfect.
I like the
because that's something
I like the last.
I mean, it was fine for like one or two. Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, the seasons were good, but the downfall is after like about 6 episodes in, you're kind of like, oh yeah, we don't get anything brand new. We just kind of get following the same story. And I'm not saying it wasn't funny. Don't get me wrong. I still think that like they're all really funny, but I'm glad that it's going back to like regular South Park.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's two types of audiences for South Park. There's the people that they love that South Park just to rip on like current events, and then there's the audience that goes, no, I like the South Park where it's just about 4 kids and them swearing it up and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I feel like. To me, it's like that. I call that the old school South Park. It's just like I like it when it's just these kids and it's just their kind of life, and it's almost like you're watching. It could be one of those like heartwarming like Sandlot shows, but instead it's just like more like what kids really are. There's a bunch of like fucked up like little bastards.
That's what they even said. They said like most people view children as like innocent little angels. Like we always hated children. We always viewed them as rotten bastards. We're thinking back when we were kids, like yeah, we were little pricks. So we're gonna just make a show what we were like when we were kids.
Well, and that's what I mean. It's like that's the stuff that I like. Is I like those kind of episodes. So I'm happy for that. Now if they could just do a live action one, or I feel like even if they just did Book of Mormon as like a movie, I think that would be the other way to do it.
I can see them doing that, or them at least like letting someone make a movie about it. But because that's one of those things, like I think for a while, like this movie had trouble people had trouble seeing because it was NC-17, so it didn't get a very large release at all. And then it was just like being a kid telling Mom, Dad, we rent this NC-17 movie called Orgazmo, and then later you got something like
See, because Baseketball is probably worse, but that one's an easy one. It's
like
it's a sports movie.
That one was easy to get, but you're regarding the.
But that's it's an easy sell. Like, hey Mom, can I get this sports movie? Well, yeah, you get the sports movie, but not the one with the guy with the cock on his head.
Yeah, but then the thing is, every so often they just make it kind of harder for people to get their stuff, like because you got Book of Mormon, and not everyone can really go pay to see that. So I could see them eventually possibly making a movie for that.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's this movie, because I didn't own it till like they had the special edition one that came out like in 2005 or so, I think 6 maybe, somewhere around there. Because like the older copies, but then again, I'll say this is those kind of movies. Even if it was rated R, I don't think it probably would have went to like a ton of theaters. Anyways, it still would have been tough to find. I mean, probably by being NC-17, it limited it down to like very few theaters. But I don't think that even being rated R, I don't think that would have spread it that much faster though. You know what I mean? You would have had a handful of more theaters. I think at the time it felt like, oh, dude, we're fucked. But I think in hindsight, when you do think about it, it's like I don't think that made too much of a difference. Because especially back in the day when theaters were smaller and they could only accept so many movies, like, what the fuck's gonna just take this movie?
I can see this just being some weird little cult comedy. It kind of like built up a little bit of praise over the years. If they didn't have South Park already kind of waiting in the wings when this thing came out.
Yeah, it's like this movie needed to kind of be in like the video rental store. It's like it was never gonna like make it in theaters. It had to be for sure like you rent it, you share it to your buddies, and pass it along. And the South Park thing I think that's what gets it going. It's kind of like Cannibal. Like that movie would be, let's just say if that was the only movie they made, that movie would be such a lost in time movie. I bet. Like people would have seen it, but I just do not because I don't think it would have been passed around. I don't think you would have got little theater groups that will want to go out and do Cannibal the Musical and things like that. I think that it's all sort of still due to South Park. You know what I mean? Because if not, that would have just been like a, almost like, hey, here's a movie my buddy's in. You want to check it out? It's not very, it's kind of corny, but.
Well, I feel like you could see that they really like. I was going to say this earlier, but if you listen to the show long enough, you know that we were not really big fans of musicals. But the reason I think that like. Cannibal works as a musical, and what reason Orgazmo could work as a musical is because I see they really like musicals, but they're self-aware musicals. The musicals I can't take serious, where they take themselves seriously and they're singing about their problems. And I know that's the genre. And all, but it's just one of those things where it just takes me out of it. Like I someone twisted my arm into watching Les Miserables, and you know what? It's a good story. It has a good production value, but there's another version without singing, and it's a lot easier to watch and a lot easier to ingest. So it's just one of those things where something like this, I think comedy and musical works fine. And I think that clearly they're like at least Trey Parker definitely is a diehard musical fan, because even shows in like South Park, Bigger, Longer, Uncut is an old timey musical.
Yeah, that one, and that's one of his favorite genres is musicals. And that's even like in Cannibal. That's like it was supposed to be kind of like if you made it like Oklahoma or something like that, and just made it kind of like a dark version of that. And I think it's like I'll say this. I think it's Trey Parker's singing is really what makes the musicals like better. And I think that because even in Book of Mormon, the only reason that I don't really care for like the music as much is I go, they got the generic like musical person to sing where it's like I'm gay, look at me, every day is all about being me. It's like instead of if it was Trey Parker singing, I think it would have been so much better. Like I feel like that was what was missing in the Book of Mormon. And it's not saying there's anything against it, but like. If it just would have had, I know he's like,
you can't be there at every show.
Can't be 45 years old. Like, but I mean, like the main one, like the one that recorded the album and all that kind of stuff. Like, I just feel like that would have been perfect for Trey Parker instead of having generic. That's the only thing is they literally had. I always call it generic, Broadway voice because it seems like doesn't matter which one you're seeing. Like, go to Broadway, watch like fucking 10 plays in a row. I bet you anything. 50% of the guys are gonna all sound like I'm out here singing on a boat. And they always it's like that voice. It's like not even like a good singing voice. Like it's a voice like I'm fucking imitating it like 100%. And I'm like, dude, I never fucking sing them plays. And boom. I'm like, I already fucking, you could hire me already as that character.
I was in a couple of drama plays back in drama plays. Oh, yeah, I was in a couple of plays. I was in a couple of plays back in high school, but it was mainly just like I'm gonna try to be sociable. And then like as soon as I like was in there, I'm like, this was a mistake.
Right. Put your gay voice on, Ryan. It's the only way you're gonna be able to sing this song.
I don't know. That's it right there. That's it. The way I usually talk. Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I guess
regarding this,
I'm not too sure. I mean, I wasn't really into these plays. Like the light just shines onto you, like it's your mind.
It's like a monologue with me. There's suddenly a stool there.
So, like, I just wanted to be sociable. Maybe meet a few friends. I don't know. Find a local girl and go down to the old club. But who am I kidding? I'm here at this play with a bunch of fucking play-ins, just like going off on them. Bunch of fucking faggots. Oh wait, am I thinking this out loud?
There's a harp in the background.
You know what I mean? Just like, instead, you know what? Fuck you all. Just like a Rage Against the Machine song. So
suddenly, this like, sounds
I'm going to go like hang out with the fucking video crew, and we're going to run around making fucking kung fu flicks. Do like a fucking backflip off like the stage. Doesn't really land it properly. You get up like, fucking start swinging some nunchucks around. Yeah, fuck you.
Just all in one. It went from being like a poetry slam to gymnastics to like a Rage music video. No, there is like a it's like that's not even like a really that much of a normal play by that point. There's like those weird readings, like those weird artsy like stuff. You have like some angry guy in New York in a club talking about what's wrong with society while he smokes a cigarette,
Oh, you're talking about like the spoken words?
Spoken word type shit. Yeah, like my wife says she's not happy anymore. I mean, I've only worked for my fingers to the bone for like 40 years. Maybe that's just society, man. Maybe that's just the way life is. Just like, all right, dude, what the fuck ever. All right.
That reminds me of like stand-up comedy without like the comedy part. It's like literally just stand-up.
Yeah. Do something interesting.
Like, well, he's standing up. He hasn't got to the comedy part, but they're standing up. The only person I want to see do that is fucking Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins.
It's the only person I would go out of my way to see a Henry Rollins spoken words. But other than that, though, it's like, yeah, that's a genre that's going to be hard for me to like jump on board unless you're Henry Rollins.
I mean, Kevin Smith keeps it one step away from stand-up comedy, essentially. But it's like storytelling that's actually interesting. When it's like somebody in their midlife crisis and just spilling it out onto a stage. Like, I don't give a shit, dude.
It sounds weird, but like the way I look at Kevin Smith's one, I consider that pretty much stand-up comedy because it's funny throughout the whole way. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not. It's more storytelling than straight jokes. But I feel like he's literally a stand-up comedian. He's just maybe just a little bit different than like your average one.
Henry Rollins can be pretty funny himself. He's actually a funny guy, but he's also just very.
Well, yeah, he'd be funny. He would be very inspirational. He would have real things to say. Like everything about that would be good.
Mm-hmm. But
no, I think Orgazmo. See, Orgazmo could be one of those weird ones that you could almost bring back because of the success of like Book of Mormon. You could almost resell Orgazmo to like Broadway and do. Perfect example. Okay, this is what Mel Brooks did. Like way later is when he did The Producers. He did it on Broadway. Because the original movie only has that one musical number in it, just like when they're actually doing the musical thing, but it's not a musical. But then fucking in the 90s or 2000s or whenever he did it. they did the full-on musical version of like the producers.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see him doing that with like Orgazmo at some point. I know it's like, okay, you got producers, and then you got a movie about a guy with a cock on his head.
No.
Which I will have to say, what's one of the other funny parts too is when fucking Chota Boy's tied up, and he's like, Chota dog, save me! And there's just this dog.
It's a dog not doing nothing. One of my favorite parts of the movie is with Tina Rex, where this like 300-pound like lady's like comes in and Trey Parker is clearly doing doing a voiceover of her. She's like, "Hey guys, I'm ready to fuck. Oh yeah." It's just like his most unsexiest voice possible. Like, I'm coming so hard.
Oh yeah, this is this ginormously fat lady. And apparently there was some other lady that they wanted, but she recently like lost a bunch of weight, so they had to go for this lady.
I can see that. Just one of those weird things you wouldn't expect. Then there is also like this movie also just does weird things, kind of like with like weird narrative jokes. Like there's the part where they're pulling into Chota Boy's house, and you could tell it's ADR. This is like, "Hey Joe, I just really wanted to show you something cool, something I'm working on for a while." And he pulls in, cuts the car, like, "Did you say something?" "What?" "No."
Yeah, I like those little jokes too. Well, because it's like, that's almost like that old Trey Parker Matt Stone humor is sort of like kind of like 70s and 80s movies that maybe were just like kind of like almost like B movies, but they were trying to be something more, almost like an after school special style or something like that, but just missing the budget. And it's just kind of like poking at that kind of stuff and then sort of breaking the fourth wall. But like, I don't know, I love all that stuff in there. It's the same humor that's in Baseketball. As I said, like these movies, similar time period, similar humor, that early style of theirs. There's just some great jokes. But the thing about the jokes is they're not raunchy. They're not trying super hard. They're just funny. It's just like, I like that
This is like
stuff.
in Baseketball. It's almost just funny just because like, there's like, all right, this is a little raunchy, but like, there's a part where they have the giant dicks in the locker room, and when they first, it's one of those things you actually double take, like, wait, did they? Because they're just supposed to stand there naked, you don't see nothing because it's like waist up, and then someone drops a folder down on a bench, and then you see these two ridiculously long like dicks that are clearly fake just down like off the screen. And then like, wait a minute, what? Just double take, and then like just like, oh no, that's what they did there.
It's just small stuff like that that's just, no, and that's what
and when they turn, when Matt Stone turns real quick, it has a
like
noise.
a kung fu swing. Well, it's like in Orgazmo, I guess like one of the big sells, like or like their big actors they got to go in there, which for what it is, it's like they got Ron Jeremy as like one of the villains in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had Ron Jeremy. And then they had, I like to imagine the whole scene they had when like, because just look at the part when like they go in there and he's using like the when they go in there, he just goes against all the different gangsters. And who was the one guy? He was like the director's he was the director's nephew or something.
He's like the really douchey guy.
Yeah, he just like people are just walking by him like, "Hello, fuck you."
Yeah, just like a jerk.
"How's it going? I'm gonna fuck you later." Like some guy comes like, "Hey you, where do you think you're going? Get over here." Waves him over. He farts in his face, and he's like, "All right, move along." He knows, but when he goes there, when Orgazmo and Chota Boy actually go there to break in, there's that whole scene where he shoots the dog, the German Shepherd, with the ray gun, and it starts humping him. And I'm just kind of imagining like the scene, the filming process of that. Like, okay, we got to get the dog to hump my leg. No, not like that. It's hard to kind of get the camera. You got it? He's trying to probably not laugh or not smile. Like, make the dog hump my leg.
Yeah, I know. And that goes on for like a second scene because he opens the door and the dog's still there, just like on his leg.
Yeah, like it never left him.
Yeah, just like the whole walk up through the mansion, there's this dog.
Just like straddling him. The movie just has a lot of, and like it's kind of funny because like the idea of like, oh, this triple X porno, it actually reached the level, it surpassed E.T. at box office records. It became so popular that even kids have action figures for it. And the part where a kid is playing with like a Ron Jeremy action figure and an Orgazmo action figure, and he's always like, "I'll use my orgasm gun." And like Ron Jeremy's all like so just the
they make it like this. It's just like huge thing that everybody knows of it. Well, they always use these jokes too. They're like, when like Trey Parker's girlfriend's in like the video store and she goes, "What's that movie up there?" He's like, "What? You've been living under a rock? You don't know what Orgazmo is?" She's like, "I'm from Utah," and he kind of breaks down like, "I'm sorry."
It's like a lot of that kind of stuff, yeah. It's like,
those are another small one too. It's like the movie starts off and it just says like it shows a picture of Hollywood because that's where they are in there, and then like a little
Hollywood right beneath it, just to clarify.
I mean, these are like jokes that's just like it's not asking much, and that's always that kind of thing you always kind of gotta make sure you don't forget in comedy. Is a lot of times jokes don't have to be that much. They don't always have to be complicated. They don't always have to be sophisticated. You know, I mean, some of the funniest things you think about that you laugh at in life, it's never anything that's that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It's not something like, oh my god, he spent so many hours thinking of how to master this joke.
Well, a lot of the best stuff in the movie, I think, is the smaller jokes. I mean, the big ones are good too, but it's like the small ones, like what you just mentioned. The Hollywood, it shows the Hollywood sign right below it, Hollywood, California. It's like, oh well, fucking duh. Or like the one I mentioned with the ADR thing. Like, there's something I want to show you. Like, oh, did you say something? And they actually cut to inside the car. Like, no, I didn't say nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's the joke that everyone likes to mention. This is always funny to me. The hamster style bit where he's all like, ever since I quit hamster style, it hasn't been the same between me and my dad. It cuts back to him and just like, hey, Dad, I'm quitting hamster style. That's nice. Just cuts back. He's like quivering lip, like on the verge of tears.
Like it's like one of the worst things ever. He's like, I could still smell that newspaper. This is father just sitting there like, that's nice. I like when it comes like later on. Trey Parker's like, he's like, Ben, you gotta use hamster style. It's the only thing. He's like, no, I said I never would. He's like, no, you gotta use it. And it thinks back. It's just like, Dad, I think I'm gonna quit hamster style. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice.
And then like him folding the papers, like, shakes it, and just shakes it off and gets into the style.
Just simple things like that. But that's the other thing about this movie too, is it does feel like it has like all those kung fu elements too that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone liked a bunch. So I felt like you gotta implement like those kind of jokes in there too.
I know that guy that played, because in whatchamacallit, in Baseketball, his name's Little Bitch. That's what they call him. Yeah. I was wondering, like, he's in an episode of South Park somewhere. I wonder if he still used him at all, and like they still hang out with that guy. That's gotta be like a friend from probably like, wouldn't surprise me at least, but that's a friend from Colorado or something.
Yeah, they're all from Colorado because he's also in Cannibal as well too. And,
oh, that's right, he is in Cannibal.
Because he's got like my favorite line in Cannibal the musical, where like they haven't had something to eat for a long time, and they're just kind of walking, and they go, is that a goat over there? They're like, yeah, dude, I think it's a goat. And then he fucking just starts like unzipping his pants. And then Trey Parker goes, no, to eat. He's like, dude, I was just going to take a pee.
Well, there's also that bit where he's just like, when like the one guy's like, we could build a snowman. He just cuts him off mid-song, shoots him in the head. And later they're looking at him like,
let's build a snowman. We can make him our best friend. We can name him Bob, or we can name him Dave. I listen to that album. I watch that movie a lot.
But then there's the part where he gets shot in the head. They're looking at him earlier. He looks so happy. You just see his corpse. There's like a part of his skull missing. And he just has this big old huge, smile. Like, rictus, like, Joker grin.
But no, yeah, I always kind of want to, because he's in like a handful of South Park episodes, but I just wonder if he's been in South Park like more recently. I don't know, because it's like, see, that's the thing. Is like, I feel like, one, they need a live action movie so that he can also be in it too. That's the other thing. Hell, you know what would make me super happy? Make a fucking Basketball 2, because these are those movies that you can always kind of make and have them all be old and they're still fucking like hanging out playing Nintendo. Like, why not? Come on, let's do that.
Well, people have been teasing and saying, I mean, I don't think Trey Parker has, but there's been like rumors like Orgazmo 2 or whatever, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Even like even though when the movie ends and the villain is just like, I'm coming for you, Orgazmo. I don't even think they really intended. I think like, well, this seems like a superhero ending you'd have.
Yeah, right well, here. I think that's all it was going for, because it doesn't feel like a movie that. Also, that seems like kind of a weird movie to even have a sequel. If you're gonna make a sequel to anything, like, I don't know if Orgazmo is like the one to do.
Well, for years they were talking about doing a third Bill and Ted, and they said by this point that if they were to do it, they would make it like this dark and kind of like sad movie about these guys who had this vision of what the future was going to be, but it never came. And then they're just like washed up, and it was going to be more. They said it was supposed to be more of kind of like
a wrestler,
kind of like that. That's what they're saying they're going to make it like. They said it was still going to be a comedy, but there's going to be this aspect of like, it never happened. What did we mess up on? And it's almost like really self-reflective. So
they're like living in this fucking van, like in a park or whatever. Just these two scraggly old like guys, but they're dressed like identical, like it's still 1989.
It's gonna go back, dude. The vision's gonna come back. The vision's gonna come back. It's gonna be totally radical. Stop saying radical. No one says anymore, bro. Nothing's radical about this future.
See, that'd be pretty. See, I feel like what was you could even if you made a Bill and Ted one, like even if it wasn't dark, but you just kind of made it like, hey, here's Bill and Ted, but they're just old. Like, I feel like that's a concept to me. Like, you can never go around with the old characters, like the old, like where are these characters at now? And they're old. Yeah, it might not be nearly as good as like the first two, but it still would be cool just to see it anyways. Like, I just like that idea of like, hey, let's just have jokes. It's kind of like the same thing for like action movies. It's like the Expendables. Like, I love the old people kicking ass genre. You know what I mean? Why can't we have the older guys, continuing on? Like, I think Baseketball would be a great sequel. I mean, they probably wouldn't do that because I know that's not really like, it's somebody else's movie, not really theirs.
And he doesn't even look back on that movie fondly.
No, they just think it's kind of okay. You know what I mean? I think it's like most people that like South Park a lot like think that movie's fucking amazing. But
that's a good movie. It is a really good movie.
Yeah, it's like, dude, that's like probably like top 5 favorite comedies of all time. Like, that fucking good.
I know we mentioned this earlier, but it's just that part of just kind of like when the song's like, you're feeling down and your girlfriend left you. And he's all going then you suddenly sold your sports team to a bunch of factory working kids and did it. And they just look out for the Honda on the left.
Or just like, there's just so much great stuff. I know we're talking about like Orgazmo. It's like, dude, let's talk about Baseketball now.
It's almost more than Orgazmo. This has almost become just Matt Stone, Trey Parker Retrospect.
Well, to me, it's like one of those ones, like when somebody asked me if they had like, actually, I literally had this question, some like comic book thing. They had like sent me an interview thing on fucking Twitter or whatever, and I filled out. They're like, "What's your biggest inspiration?" I'm like, dude, fucking Trey Parker, Matt Stone. Like, ever since I've been like a fucking kid, 10 years old when South Park came out, the exact same age as the kids, pretty much. It's like that has always been like, dude, if there's one person or one group of people that I look at, it's like, dude, Trey Parker, Matt Stone. Like, throughout all life, just their style, their humor, everything about it. It's just like, I love the whole package.
Like, anytime they have their name on something, I'm immediately interested. Only reason I haven't seen Book of Mormon yet is because it's always sold out and it's always super expensive.
Yeah, well, it's even like I saw the Despicable Me 3 thing. When I just saw Trey Parker in there, it's like, I don't know if I could put up these minions, but it does have Trey Parker.
Joe Rogan liked it.
It does. Yeah, it's just the minions.
That's a very random thing. A very random Joe Rogan liked it. He just mentioned it on his podcast for a second.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not good because I will say this: everything I see in there that's not minion looks fine. It's just the minions are just kind of obnoxious. It's like the same problem I have with like those rabbids, like in the Mario game. Like, that Mario game looks really fun, but will I be able to handle those rabbids for the entire time? That's all I say.
Maybe there's like an option to just lower like voice volume or something like that.
It's an option just to like replace all the rabbids with Goombas. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll take that.
I'll do that. Yeah, sure thing. I want to have to contemplate that again because the game itself looks fun, but the characters, the rabbids, just look loud and obnoxious. But Nintendo has faith in that game, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it's almost like, it sounds weird, but it's like almost like the rabbids, just that loud, obnoxious, like,
gibberish.
It's the same.
They're loud. They're very jittery. They speak gibberish, and they just kind of bump into each other, fart in each other's faces, basically.
Yeah, it's just like one of those ones. Like, I mean, I understand why that appeals to like a 5-year-old, but it's like when you're trying to sell a game to an adult, it's like, okay, come on. Like, as I said, like, if we have the option, like, replace all rabbids with Koopas and Goombas, I will buy that game the second it comes out, if that's the case.
No, yeah.
Hell, replace all those rabbids with Dr. Robotnik villains and make it a Sonic Mario crossover.
It's going to happen sooner or later. I'm surprised it hasn't happened. I'm surprised that the thing like, Mario and Sonic crossover. Awesome. What is it? Olympics. Wait, what? I almost thought that was like, when I first saw that, I'm like, is this an April issue? When I first saw that, I immediately thought, that is an April issue, because what we finally wanted to happen, but it's in an Olympic setting. This has to be a joke.
Yeah, it's not even like Mario Kart, or it's not even like, it's like the weirdest kind of choice.
No, but as far as Orgazmo goes, I also think it's they like, once again, they just kind of like to poke fun at like, the action movie cliches and superhero cliches, because there's a part at the end where he says, when we got together, it was good. They can't really find any words to say, so they just keep on saying, good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. It's stuff that's there and it's good. It makes you feel good and it's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also too because you think about This movie's one of those ones that it's almost poking fun at like that sort of first round of like the superhero wave of movies. Like, I mean, technically there's smaller rounds that came beforehand, but like that from '89 Batman, up to that point, it's like that's almost like a lost time period that people kind of forget about lots of those superhero movies. But there was tons of superhero / comic book movies. I don't think it's necessarily just superhero stuff, but you have like tons of movies that came out around that time period that sort of like fell down, where people almost nowadays just refer to like, oh, it's like there was Batman, but there wasn't a whole lot else until X-Men came out.
Well,
and where this movie's like almost like mocking that section of time period where there was actually quite a bit of superhero things, and
it's also just kind of because it was making fun of it and poking fun at the whole formula from point A to point B superhero movies like Batman, or even like kind of something like maybe not, no, I was going to say Phantom, not that one so much though, but that's more of like an old. That's more of an old time adventure movie.
Well, I mean, that was kind of the thing that a lot of companies did instead. It's like, oh, Batman's really popular. Well, let's make some things that let's make all the random comics instead. I don't know if that was a decision just based on money or what. That's like, okay, like we'll make Phantom. We'll make.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying we'll make Phantom. We'll make Rocketeer. We'll make Judge Dredd. We'll make. Tank Girl. It was like the ones they all chose was kind of like, we'll make Spawn. It's like nobody was going like, maybe we should make, a Spider-Man movie or something like that. Nah, we'll get around to that later.
Well, Spider-Man was almost made like 3 times before it came out, but it was they had trouble with technology and people didn't understand it. But there was actually, I was going to say, regarding like comic book movies that are coming out at that time, it sort of seems like Batman '89 is kind of interesting because it just starts off like, yeah, he's Batman. He's been doing this just for a little while. He hasn't been doing a whole lot, but he's Batman. We're not having the whole origin thing. Where people complain about origin stories now, people think about like how many of those superhero movies came out, that slow build up before they actually get the suit or before they actually get their outfit or their special powers. Like Tank Girl, that movie builds up for a while before she actually gets her tank. So it's like that kind of thing. I think this movie's more poking fun at, even though Batman's thing that kind of kickstarted that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think it is kind of just poking at all those different things at the time period. And as it sounds weird, it's like I always feel like that intro feels a lot like Chasing Amy, because they both have that like comic book where it's just kind of showing the titles and everything.
Very 90s style.
Feel. Like I like that take back. That when I see that, it's like, oh yeah, can't beat that right there. But no, Orgazmo, it's one of those movies, if you've never seen it, if you're not a big South Park fan, it might be a little bit weird. I feel like that's about the only thing. If you weren't like into comedy and that, it might be that. But, it might be kind of hard for maybe a younger person watching it might think it's a little bit weird, but I don't know. It's a treasure trove of its time.
I'll say that it's kind of like you almost got to be like a South Park fan to like it. But you at least got to like South Park, because at least that type of humor. Because this movie, it feels, for a movie called Orgazmo, which is about a porno superhero, it feels very, very tame. And it's also, I think people now would see this like, dude, Hangover is more raunchier than this. I'm like, yeah, but it's not really so much going for raunchiness. It's more just going for weird little jokes, like we mentioned earlier, like we're at Stone, he fucking comes and stops, then keeps talking again, just as if nothing happened. Yeah, like that type of shit. That's almost more of what this movie nails out of the park. And I think that's some of the best jokes South Park has. Is like there's like the underpants gnomes, like. Stage 1, like what was it? Like it was like stage 1, planning. Stage 2, it's blank. Stage 3, profits.
They never got the middle part down. And yeah, that's, I mean, like a lot of the best South Park jokes are that too. And for example, Hangover is pretty much about like the movie that started off like let's make things super raunchy, and then from that point on, as everybody seems to like try to outbeat the next one, and they're still pretty much making Hangover movies nowadays. And even some movies that I even kind of like that might be like. You could tell that they're still trying to put, like, I'll say it's like, I like that Baywatch movie that came out, but that movie did have that thing where there was moments in it where they were trying to, like, one-up the fucking next guy and who can kind of makes the raunchy ones. And where I like something like Orgazmo, it's like, Orgazmo's way funnier than The Hangover, you know what I mean? And, like, they're not even trying very hard.
It's just, it's just one of those things that just came out of the weird, I think they're also, like, they were probably also holding back to a certain extent because they probably wanted to put more in there. Clearly, they definitely did if they wanted to make a musical at first. But there's probably more they wanted to put in there. But just like, you know what, we're already having trouble being these two no-name guys selling a porno superhero movie. So let's just try and toned back just a little bit. There's probably more in that original script, I bet.
Yeah, well, because the movie totally has like a very, everything about it's very simplistic. Like, for the most part, until about like the end, like a lot of the things feel like, yeah, you could probably shoot this. Other than a handful of scenes, it's like you could shoot something like this pretty easily, around your neighborhood if you wanted to.
That is one thing. It is kind of inspirational in the sense like I could have made this movie if I just if I knew Ron Jeremy. Ron Jeremy's probably the most expensive thing in that movie.
Yeah, if you knew Ron Jeremy and he could provide you with just a bunch of ladies, it's like you pretty much have everything that movie has. Because the rest of it's just a bunch of talkie scenes for the most part. It takes place in just like a handful of locations, and yeah, it's simple, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's cheap. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like Cannibal the musical. That's what I like about that one too. Is that literally is a movie of like going out in your backyard and fucking shooting. I'm like, and that's what I like a lot about that. But this one still feels like you're watching a regular movie, and it's just like, because a lot of the stuff that's cheap in it, it's more like it's making kind of fun of that kind of, I guess you could almost say that 80s corniness. I mean, people still make fun of it nowadays for like that kind of like, you still hear that porno music and things like that, which by now it's like really old, I guess you could almost say. But like at that time period, it wasn't that long ago that they were still using all those kind of like almost like porno cliches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so like that's almost like, I guess, like the cheap parts of it, but that almost kind of works in its like comedy favor. But for the most part, yeah, everything in it's like, if you just show it to somebody, I don't think somebody'd be like, guess what, this is only $1 million movie. You know what I mean? It feels like it's a little bit more than that. It feels just like step down below your regular comedy at the time. Yeah.
I mean, like once again, like you said earlier, I don't think it would have got a lot. Like if it got an R rating, probably wouldn't have got a huge release. But at the same time, though, I think that maybe it would have got probably picked up a little more steam, moved a little quicker down the line. I think this audience eventually would have found it either way, with or without South Park. But I think South Park definitely pushed it forward. I
definitely think so. And I think it's one of the ones that, as I said, I don't think that the rated R-ness actually would have made too much of a difference, because the second that it was on video, I think that was where it was fine and good to go.
I think that's the thing, because a lot of movie studios back then, maybe a little bit now, but back then really kind of like, we got these 2 weeks to make all our money back. We're fucked. And then like in time, just like, oh, well, they consider Mallrats to be a failure, but that movie killed on
it's
VHS,
like, it's
and people loved
one of
it
the best-selling ones, too. And it's like, you ask any Kevin Smith fan, it's like, Mallrats is most likely their favorite movie. That's mostly always a good go-to for a lot of people.
Yeah, that one's my second favorite.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like I've kind of gone...
Clerks still one for me.
Clerks
is still one.
There's something pretty special about that, but Mallrats is right there with it. I actually like Jersey Girl a lot, too. I like to say that in my top 3. It throws people off. But...
Curveball people.
Fuck. It's like I watched Yoga Hosers again, and I was like, dude, I actually really like this even more the second time. And I already was like one of the people that really enjoyed it in theaters.
I didn't like Yoga Hosers. I'm not one of those people, arms crossed, like, fuck this movie, it shouldn't exist. But I can say that's like the only Kevin Smith movie I like
it. I don't know. It's just something about like, I just like watching. It's like these couple girls just hanging out. I like the simplicity of the movie. Like, in the humor, I think is pretty darn funny in it. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I like the whole package. I mean, it's definitely one of those movies like you couldn't just show that to anybody. I know that for a fact. You have to be like, one, I think you do have to be kind of hardcore into Kevin Smith, or else a lot of those jokes I think get kind of lost. But especially,
I'll defend Tusk to the death.
I love Tusk a bunch too, but I actually like Yoga Hosers almost as much as I like Tusk. It's like I like it that much, but I don't know. It's just that I just like that smallness of Sundance movies. It's like Orgazmo. It's like I kind of like how you don't need to be so big and bold and over the top, and you don't need to be, making the most extreme joke you could possibly think of. And it's just like sometimes just like the first joke you write might be the best one. You might not need to go back and rewrite a joke 10 times to make it more and more and more extreme. I don't know. I think that's what that's the life lesson of Orgazmo right there.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. But that's probably a perfect place to wrap all this stuff up with. So there's our fun episode of talking not only about Orgazmo, but just Trey Parker and Matt Stone flicks of all types. And check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. Make sure to check out Pizza Boys, which is both on Amazon and Comixology, both issue 1 and 2. Until then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on.
And if you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. Won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week to Old Man Orange.
So I want to make a little kind of like, I guess do a little bit of house cleaning, as Ryan likes to call it. Is that what we call it? I can't remember.
I call it housekeeping, but it could be the same thing.
Yeah, housekeeping.
House cleaning makes it sound like, get this shit out of the way.
Yeah, housekeeping. So I got a little bit of housekeeping to do here. And I just want to say I was on Arnold Radio News' last episode where we were doing a 70th birthday of Arnold Schwarzenegger and kind of going through 7 decades of awesomeness throughout his entire life, sharing the good times, playing some games, and just talking about movies. So make sure you go out and check out Arnold Radio News. I want to say it might be episode 68 or 69, but it's called 7 Decades of Schwarzenegger.
That sounds cool. That was cool that Gillinator and Brennan Crum brought you on.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. And then also Randy Jennings, who's like the main guy.
Oh, he was on that one?
Yeah, he was on that one. He's like the main guy of the ArnoldFans.com. He was there too. And then we got this little mandate coming up because we're going to go see T2 in 3D at fucking some random town in California because that's the closest place.
Really? What town is that?
It's at Brentwood. Have you ever heard of Brentwood?
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's exactly how we heard the name. Never been there. It sounds kind of yuppie, but...
Brentwood. Chaz and I are going down to the organic store down in Brentwood.
See, it doesn't sound like that. It's not like, yo, man, I'm going down to Brentwood. That doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like, I live in Brentwood, I tell you what. See, you don't hear that guy living in fucking Brentwood.
No.
You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, I bet you it'll probably look like every other, like, regular, like, uppity town of California. I bet you'll have that Spanish architect. I'm like judging this town.
They're just going on a guess. You just get there, it's a shady town.
You have that Spanish architect where like they think it looks all cool and hip, and
you get there, it's actually a shanty town with just a very nice AMC theater.
Yeah, AMC theater. It's like, this is all we have. It's an AMC theater. We must worship it. Worship it, damn it.
Like Cinema Paradiso or something.
But yeah, so that was there. So that'll be interesting. Go explore a town. Go watch Terminator in theaters. At least you'll have an AMC theater right there in fucking San Francisco.
Yeah, I do.
So you don't have to journey. Don't have to go on a journey. On the road.
I might go my way to hang out with you guys. We'll see.
Yeah, it's on like Friday on the 29th or something like that.
Oh, I don't know if I'll be there for that then. We'll see what happens. Play it by ear.